In the studio with me this morning is one of our candidates for State Representative 74th District. It is Daniel Swanson. Good morning, Daniel.
Good morning, Vanessa, and good morning to all the listeners out there today on this beautiful fall day.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. The farming's going well. Getting the crops should be finished up here in a couple days. And I like that weather forecast. A lot of these cover crops out there could use a drink of water as we're going into the winter months here. So
now, what kind of cover crops do you see out there?
Mostly rye. I do see some wheat, some farmers putting in some wheat for the fall, next summer harvest.
And I assume you've got a row crop as well as livestock?
Absolutely. We've got row crop. We also have a cow-calf operation. We feed out some cattle on feedlots. Then we have 2 hog confinements, 2,480 head buildings that my son manages one and my nephew manages the other. So, and we raise our calves off the mothers and buy some cattle for the feedlots, but we kind of the old-fashioned. We still pick 6,000 bushels of ear corn to feed those calves.
I bet they love it.
Oh, they love that ear corn ground up. So.
Yes, they do. How are your yields?
Yields were pretty good. Disappointed in some of the bean yields, but overall very good.
Did you have some sudden death in the beans?
Had some sudden death, and some of the ground just no matter if it's the moisture is just tough to get a good crop off of the clay hills that we farm. So
okay. Well, yeah, you're over in Knox County, over near.
I'm over actually near Henry County.
Or Henry County, okay.
Yeah, near Andover.
Okay. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a farmer, as I mentioned, a family farming operation, 5th generation. My son and nephew joined the farming operation a couple years ago as part of the hog operations. I'm a 27-and-a-half-year Army veteran, served 23-and-a-half years on active duty, and retired in January 2001. Saw soldiers I trained go to war. Some came home in flag-draped caskets. I volunteered out of retirement and went to Baghdad, Iraq for a year from July 07, July 08. Put back in retirement. Then, fortunately, I was called up again and served 3 years at the Rock Island Arsenal, transferring a mission from the Pentagon to Rock Island Arsenal, saving millions of dollars in jobs at the Rock Island Arsenal. So farmer, veteran, father. I've got 2 grown sons. One lives in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He works for Syngenta, and my other son is home on the farm.
Okay. And you're a retired Army colonel. Now, you had a chance to go to Hawaii.
Absolutely. The Army sent me to Hawaii a couple times to do some training.
For you to be able to say the Army sent me to Hawaii, that's a good story.
And it's good on the pocketbook when the Army sends you somewhere.
Yeah.
Sent me to Hawaii and Korea and Germany, and so it's just been a great career.
Okay.
And that's, as I tell people, I've already had one career, 27.5 years in the Army, and as I approach the political career, I see that as a public servant, not as a career, another career that I'm going to notch on my belt, if you will.
Okay. I wondered what would motivate you to seek election. What made you decide to run?
Well, we need farmers in the House. We need veterans in the House. We need representation from Western Illinois. And I believe I'm best suited to do that. I served my country in the Army. I served my community on the Board of Education in Alwood for 17 years. Was forced to resign from that when I was elected to county board. I was served on the county board for a couple years, and when I got called up to active duty, I could not serve on that position, so I had to resign from that. But so now I'm looking at serving my state, and I think the best way to do that is to serve the people of the 74th District and represent them in Springfield.
Does it concern you if you are elected that you'll see continued stopgap budgets? Does that concern you, and are you worried about the one that we currently have?
I'm very concerned. It's not a good way of doing business. We need to have stability in the finances at the state because those who receive state funding rely on that stability. And to have to use reserves or have to be creative in serving our senior citizens or serving the students that we're teaching or to serve any of the fire districts or police districts, we need to have stability. And I think that's the most important part of that budget is the stability that we can provide to our communities and to our schools.
One of the questions that you were asked back in the primary at the Knox County Farm Bureau, I thought was a really good question from the audience, and it was, how would you be able to encourage Madigan and Rauner to talk together? And what was your answer to that question back then?
Well, what we need to do is has encouraged that communications. We've got we need more Republican state representatives, so we have some horsepower. We need to keep Noreen Hammond's been doing a great job for us and for the people of her district. We've got two Republicans running north in Tony McCumbee and Brandy McGuire, and we need to at least gain one Republican seat, and that will force the cards, as we see it, that they do have to talk, because the supermajority will be gone. Will encourage discussions, as I see it.
What do you think the main factors are that have contributed to the lack of state budget and also a lack of a balanced budget over the past several years?
Well, communication, certainly, as we see right now, is we're not communicating. And we need to have the representation. State Representative Don Moffitt did a great job of being that communicator in Springfield. And unfortunately, as I said, with the small numbers, we can't always enforce what we'd like to do. But, it's the strength in numbers as we see it. And in the military, it was part of our job is to communicate and make the mission complete. So that's what we have to do, is look at this, get the mission completed, and get a budget that's stable and the community can rely on it.
One of the common themes we have heard in this election cycle has been people who've never been, in the Illinois General Assembly wanting to run so that there's representation of the people rather than, as you had stated earlier, career politicians.
Right, and that's what makes it great. When we talk about term limits, well, it's up to the people to determine those term limits. I support term limits on leadership, and I support term limits in those positions, and I also support term limits for the state representatives. But we can rely on the voters to become educated and make the decisions that they feel will the public servants that we send to Springfield to best serve the public.
Challenges with how to balance that budget.
Oh, wow.
What do you propose? What are some ideas? How do we balance the pension? How do we get to the end result, which is a balanced budget?
Well, one thing we can't do is we cannot increase taxes to do it. We have to look at cutting our spending. We're great at spending money in Springfield. What we can't do is seem to restrain ourselves from more spending and to continue putting the property tax burden on the farmers and the homeowners just is not a way. There's been discussions of raising that service tax and the farm tax on seed, corn, and fertilizers, and that's something I certainly do not support. What we need to do is, there's discussions going on today. I know no one's in session, but the committees are still meeting, and talking with other state representatives and Senator Weaver. There's 4 people been at the table, but that 5th one refused to sit down. So, we've got to get a balanced budget. Our Constitution says we'll have a balanced budget. Our Constitution says we will fund education at the appropriate levels at the percentages required for our education. And right now, 16% of the students live in Chicago, but 32% of our tax dollars go to Chicago. So I think we need to level this out and get the playing field more even across the state of Illinois in education and other areas.
And currently, from your background on serving on the Alwood School District, Jody Scott, our regional superintendent, she's able to serve on the funding formula committee, and that may be a place to start.
Absolutely. Jody's been doing a great job. We're friends. We talk often. And we have Angie Larvell in Henry County, who serves quite a bit of the 74th district also. So, and then I've got my go-to people, as I call them, out in our 74th district. I have my go-to superintendents. I have my go-to veterinarians. I have my go-to police chiefs, fire chiefs, and those people. And Jody's certainly one of my go-to people in the education arena. So, yeah, that's a place we need to start. Our senior citizen centers are not being served as they should be for our seniors in the communities either.
What other areas of interest do you see that are important to voters in the 74th?
Well, I think one, I served for almost 3 years as a superintendent for Henry County Veterans Assistance Commission. And I think our veterans population is underserved. When I had a Korean War veteran come in my office with 2 Purple Hearts, bayonet wounds to his belly, and needed financial assistance to pay medical bills, he did not realize he was eligible for VA benefits. And I think we need to, one I would like to see is more of our state agencies involved in educating our veterans. Our driver's license facilities having veterans information. Our senior citizens centers having veterans information. So that's something I certainly would like to push also. I know Don has been a strong supporter of our fire, and I would like to continue that and expand into our police departments and veterans and go along those lines.
And getting help to get to and from the VA hospitals, especially the one in Iowa City.
Absolutely. I know residents here in Monmouth and Warren County are served by the Knox County van that travels through. As a superintendent in Henry County, we transported 667 veterans with 16 volunteer drivers in 1 year. And as those volunteer drivers, as I know we use in other communities, are fabulous people. And but it's that service, and I'm on Senator Weaver's Veterans Committee, and that's one of the things we've discussed is areas. How do we get transportation and services to those who need them in the rural environment, especially in the transportation arena?
Okay. So veteran services, fire protection districts as well. What else do you think is important to our voters in this 74th?
Well, our farmers are certainly important. That's our most. That's our producers of we're the breadbasket here in Western Illinois, in Central Illinois, and we need to consider, as I said, protecting them on their taxes and the property taxes, is find an equitable way to finance as opposed to putting that on the backs of the farmers. Our roads, I know we haul grain to the elevator, and it's a bouncy roads that we travel on the state highways to get to the elevators and to get to the ethanol plants and those things. And there's a lot of road construction we need to look at, and I think we need to look at, there's more traffic on our roads today. What is the life expectancy of the road that we repair today? And then budget that out for the years to come on repairing that road or fixing those bridges or whatever the case may be.
Okay. Finally, what makes you the person to be elected to the Illinois General Assembly?
Well, I think what makes me the most best candidate is my wide variety and range of reach back capabilities, if you will. The knowledge I learned in the military of how to work as a team is especially important. My experience in the military and how to do the decision making, how to properly make a decision. My farming background, very passionate about, here we are feeding the world from Illinois. I looked the other day, and what I read was 95% of the mouths to feed are outside the United States. So we need to look at expanding our exports and reaching that 95%. Right now, our grain prices are slumping and making it more and more difficult on the farmer to make ends meet. And it's going to be a difficult year in the farming arena. And then, of course, as I mentioned, the veterans. But I'm a family man. I'm a Christian. We go to Alpha Baptist Church, my family and I. And I think that just brings around that whole arena of what we expect. And I understand what it means to serve. I served in the military, served my community. And as I said, now I feel I'm best qualified to serve the 74th District.
Okay. Well, appreciate you coming over today.
Vanessa, it's always a pleasure to come over to the circle here, the square in Monmouth, and visit. I used to come here quite often to the Monmouth Armory when that was part of my command, when I was active duty with the National Guard, and very historic buildings here in the Monmouth. Yep,
no doubt. And by the way, Veterans Day just around the corner, so thank you for your service.
Absolutely. And one of the things I did during the primaries, I passed out a lot of the green light bulbs. Remember, there's 22 veterans every day who commit suicide, and I'm very passionate about that. And I spoke 2 weeks ago at the Henry County Mental Health Awareness about the veterans and their plight with PTSD and the 22 suicides every day, and that's 22 too many.
Absolutely. Dan, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. Now it's time to go out and enjoy this beautiful fall weather and maybe make a little dust.
All right. Sounds good. That is Dan Swanson, candidate for State Representative 74th District on 1590 WAIK and 1330 WRAM.